Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Empire Life podcast. I'm your host, Allison Ramsey, and I'm the founder of Empire Life. We're a tech and digital marketing company supporting female founders in scaling their online businesses. And we interview female founders from all around the world about how they redefine their success and their mindset hacks, different kind of powerhouse women strategies that they've had, and really diving deep and getting to know them more and how they got to where they are now. And today we are with Rebecca Capps. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist committed to helping clients feel good about their body and happy in life without food guilt or dieting. She named her practice Mind Body Thrive because she takes a holistic approach and believes that in order to thrive, one must consider both mind and body. Rebecca lives near the beach in Santa Barbara. We're all jealous. Oh, that's beautiful. With her husband and 1-year-old son, Rowan, which I love that name too.
Thank you.
And I would love to hand it over to Rebecca a little bit more to introduce herself and say hi.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and you touched a lot on what I do. I'm an eating disorder professional. I help my clients to feel better in their mind and body so that they can thrive in life, because I truly believe that regardless of your circumstances, regardless of what you've been through, you absolutely can thrive. I help women who are they're people pleasers, they're perfectionists, and they strive for control. And they do this in a host of unsavory kind of ways, whether it's binging, purging, alcohol abuse, things like that. And I have a very personal connection to this because I started my journey when I was 11 years old. I had a life-threatening eating disorder that landed me in the hospital for a few months, and I learned a lot about the journey, what works, what doesn't work, and I feel very passionate, a lot of passion about helping women who want to feel better. That's why I'm here.
And I want to dive really deep into your story as much as we can
All
with the
right.
time that we have allotted, Rebecca, because do you know the percentages of I think yeah, can you,
Yeah,
I
I'll
feel
dive into
like,
that.
what is I feel like I read somewhere that it was 3 out of 5. I'm trying to remember of
Yeah.
women who have experienced an
So,
eating disorder at some point in their life. And I'm talking about American women because we're
right,
based in the
Americans.
US. Mm-hmm.
It kind of vacillates. It's anywhere from 1 in 4, 1 in 5, so good memory, suffer from an eating disorder. And 20% of Americans who have an eating disorder will eventually die from medical complications or suicide, because the suicide rate is very high. So it makes the mortality rate the highest out of all of the mental conditions. It's a staggering number, and it's very difficult to treat. You often need a treatment team and to really stabilize individuals medically first. Yeah, so the numbers are pretty amazingly high, and this is the other pandemic we should be talking about, in my opinion. We spend $61 billion a year, B with a, billion, not million, just on diet products alone. So that should tell you something about our culture and what we value.
That's
But it
true.
but it wasn't just like, I would say, for me at least, it wasn't just about I wanted to look good or to be on like a cheerleading team. For me, it was trauma, and also just like my environment. Genetics and environment play very large roles in this.
Mm-hmm.
There's this term, it's genetics loads the gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. And I very much found that to be true for myself. You have like people who have an eating disorder, it's likely that they had like a grandma or a mom who also suffered from an eating disorder. My grandma was yo-yo dieting all of her life. And then as far as trauma is concerned, my father, not to get too into it, but he suffered from a lot of paranoia and sometimes psychosis, just extreme mental health conditions. Even though he's like this reputable businessman, physician, he was also building like a bomb shelter in my childhood home. Like, try explaining that to the kids at school. Like, he was a little out there, let's just say. And then he died from pancreatic cancer. And there was just a lot of chaos in my home. So not eating through starvation, it was like a temporary refuge or a way for me to control my external stimuli and the emotions that I was feeling from a day-to-day basis. And I had zero coping skills at the time. So that's
I
kind of,
understand. I have had a few clients, well, more than a handful of clients that have shared with me that they've recovered from an eating disorder that then led them into, their path of really wanting to be there for women as they start feeling more comfortable, confident in their bodies and
mhm,
living vicariously through them. I myself have not been through that exact experience. I've been through other kind of addiction
mhm,
experiences through seeing those in my family and analyzing. And um, one of my ex-husbands had two mental, I've been married twice, and he had
mhm,
two mental illnesses. And so
mm,
I completely agree with you that, he had that in his genetic makeup, and it was
mhm.
the environment then that pulled the trigger. Like you said, it was
Yes.
exactly like that, because there was years of happily being married, and then
Mhm,
it came in his early 30s, and it was a big change. Or he and I had a big move, and all of
mhm.
a sudden the whole environment was different, and he didn't feel like he had control of his environment anymore. And it does the definitely, on the surface, it definitely describes what you were saying, that it was already there. And for us to be aware, in my family, there's already addiction there, and kind of obsessive need to control things.
Yep.
So I feel like being aware of those, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that might be one of the first best steps, is saying this is there. And if I get like if I start having too much of something, and I feel like, oh my gosh, I need to kind of pull back because I could get addicted to this. I kind of have that in the back of my head after analyzing and seeing that in my own family.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awareness is always going to be the first step in anything in life and business, in like your personal
Becca, I
relationships.
can't, let me pause. So yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking about how, Rebecca, maybe for a takeaway for those of you listening, what would you feel like is one of the first steps to starting the healing process?
hmm Yeah, great question. It's all about building that awareness and building that presence, because your presence is your power. It's your superpower. And so is vulnerability. I know that in our culture, especially, vulnerability might not be a thing. I know that Brene Brown has come on the scene and she's making it a thing, but vulnerability is where it's the opening into our truth and our healing. So getting vulnerable with trusted professionals and friends, people who can help you to critically analyze the things that are working and also not working in your life, and then you can iterate accordingly. I have had a lot of therapy in my day, and I'm a big advocate of such a thing because it's a confidential, safe space for you to find tools to apply, evidence based tools into your everyday life so that you can not only function, but to thrive. Yeah. So that's kind of, those are my thoughts. I think awareness is definitely the first step.
Hmm. And when people, I love everything that you just said, and I wanted to dive a little deeper too. And if you're listening to this and you start to have awareness, that it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a label that you're going to carry for the rest of your life. You might actually is that true? You might actually outgrow some of the things
Mm-hmm.
that you may be going through right now, as as opposed to thinking, well, I have this, I am this.
Mm.
And
Yes.
that's the worry for me, I feel, as a parent now too, is that this generation, or Gen Z, as I'm a millennial and I have a Gen Z, and this new, they're much more aware of their mental health than I feel like the last three generations are. And they're much more likely to say, well, maybe I have this, and how can I, with the awareness that there's no stigma around it. At the same time, I feel like saying, I am this, we may be embodying it. And when we actually, once we become aware and we start implementing steps, we might even not be aware or have it anymore. Do you find that to be true?
I do think that there are two schools of thought. Some people are like, yes, I finally have this diagnosis, this label that's going to tell me all of why I'm suffering. And it's important, obviously, for insurance purposes and all kinds of behind the scenes. But I tend to agree with you in that, like, the label needn't be the first and forefront of the treatment. Like, we are not our diagnosis. We are who we choose to be. I know that in Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to identify as an alcoholic, but that's only one part of your story. Who are you? Who do you want to be in the world? What do you want to create? What excites you? Focus on what you want to expand. It's like the like attracts like law of attraction almost thing. That's what I like to focus on with clients instead of just their disorder.
I completely agree. And with seeing some addiction in my family, I've heard some family members say, well, that person is sick. That person has this.
Hmm.
And I aim to guide them, even though I'm not a licensed
Yeah,
therapist,
be
right?
your
But
coach. Yeah.
I are coaching them through, they might be having a lot of different layers going on underneath that, like we were talking about before,
Mhm.
of the trauma that stuffing they're stuffing it down or masking it with drug or alcohol or coffee or something
Right.
addictive, that then that kind of mask and keep pushing it down. And every now and then you might see a glimpse of that trauma with their response or their triggers. But that, or I feel, as a really intuitive person, sometimes I can
Mhm.
even feel that there's a lot there underneath. But
Yeah.
then it's for them to decide when they want to open that can of worms. The longer we wait,
Right?
the bigger the can of worms is going to be, right?
Oh my gosh, that is so true. Yeah, you can just sense it on someone when they're dealing with that heavy behind the
Mhm.
scenes trauma or the feelings of low self-worth. But you have to really meet that client where they're at instead of being like, hey, this is what you need. So I love the coaching framework because I'm also a coach, because it's very much like I'm on the bike with you. Like, where are we going? Instead of the therapeutic approach can often be like very hierarchical and top down and very grounded in theories. So it is kind of nice these days. I've been doing more coaching and doing some of that because, especially now that we're online too, treating eating disorders, they should mostly be in person. I am of that opinion for like the ethics of things. Hmm.
Hmm. I had never thought about that before. So you see that you have a lot better results when they start in person.
Well, it just depends. If they are like actively needing a medical team, that I will do in person. But right now, I've been focused on like building coaching programs for the
Mhm.
woman she's not like active in like a diagnosable kind of eating disorder, but she feels like she's still stuck to like the MyFitnessPal and thinking that she needs willpower to
Mhm.
get her through these diets. That's very much the woman who I treat these days. Hmm.
Okay. Wow, that's really fascinating. There's like you said, there's so much. I would like to dive deeper, but I want to get to know you a little bit more first too. I would
Yeah.
like to, after that, dive deeper into kind of unraveling some of that control that's underneath that, because I think it's so accepted, or personally, when I have kind of, or I've been typed before by many therapists. It's like, you're an overachiever, type A.
Mhm.
And while that, like you said, that doesn't make up everything of who I am, I'm much more than that. But there's an overarching theme that I've heard repeatedly, or personality test. And underneath that, there's an unraveling of delegation and control, and being okay with asking for support and how to ask for support. And I want to dive a
Mhm.
little bit deeper into that after we get to know you a little bit more. And with some of these experiences, Rebecca, I wanted to go a little deeper into the layers of how you feel like they really made you the person that you are today, and that made you feel more confident, secure in yourself, and stronger in how you define strength. It could be about the going through or recovering from an eating disorder, it could be through your therapy, or any experience that you would like to share.
Yeah, thank you for opening that up. What I will say, just to piggyback on what you were talking about, as far as like the type A, like all the therapists told you all that about yourself, it's a constant theme. Obviously, it's gotten you to where you are today. You're a successful businesswoman, but you saw that that was probably out of balance. And for me, um, I had to look at my core schema. Why am I driving so hard? Why am I pushing? What is this need? Where is it coming from? And my core schema happened to be like the unworthiness trap, or everyone's going to leave me. When you just take away all the fluff like that, those were the things that I was working with. And then once I knew that and was aware of these things, then I could work from there. And I wish I could say it was like this one thing, like God was parting the seas. I had to ground myself into daily acts of self-care and self-love. And the things that began moving the needle for me was learning how to be in an embodied space, to really be in my body, to learn breath work, and to also understand cognitive distortions and things like cognitive behavioral therapy, because our thoughts really do play a large role in our behaviors and how our life turns out, the thoughts that we hold. So a big common thing, especially for high achievers, perfectionists, they have the should statements. I should be doing this, I should be, all the shoulds, shoulding all over yourself, as the therapists say, right? And then there's like that black and white thinking, but really there are shades of gray, and we've got to find how to live in that shade, those shades of gray in our
Mhm.
life. Because if we're always striving and always pushing due to our fear of unworthiness, that no one's going to love us if we don't have the plaque on the wall and all the things, that's you're missing the point. You want to have fun in your business. You want to be engaged and feeling electric, not drained. Your adrenals are going to be so shot, like just from like a purely physiological standpoint. I just like to look at health from not just talk therapy, but all perspectives. How's your sleep? How's the water intake, kind of the boring things, but those are the things that really do move the needle. And it's showing up for yourself day in and day out. And yeah, we all veer off course from time to time, but just pick yourself up and get on course again. That's it. That's kind of how I feel. What's
And
helped
those
you?
are those are personally things that you've been through. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few, I would say, big things that shaped me would be my father's death. And then I had a boyfriend around this similar time who also died.
wow.
And that really was the origination of when I started this schema of, oh, everyone's going to basically die on me or abandon me. And what's the point of even investing any kind of emotional energy, because they're going to die or leave?
Wow.
Whether I was conscious of that or not, I
Mhm.
don't think I was. But as I went to therapy more, I realized, okay, this is everything that I see is from lens. So I had to learn how to create a new narrative and to see that there are different possibilities for my life. But yeah, those were huge. And it also taught me that we are we are on this earth for such a short amount of time. Why allow fear to rule my life? Like, yes, I still push myself out of my comfort zone, and that's important, but that's healthy fear. It's not the fear that's like eating me up at night. Like, am I worthy to do these kinds of things? Like, or worrying about the next launch and what people are going to think about me.
Mhm.
That doesn't keep me up at night.
That's amazing that you've transitioned into that, and you have that kind of certainty around it, and security and groundedness, because I'm sure a lot of women listening to this, they are staying up all
Mhm.
night, or I hear questions at least once a week or twice a week about, well, do I talk about my business on my personal Facebook page? Should I talk about it on my Instagram? I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's part of you.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, they're gonna not tune in anyways.
That's great
Mhm.
advice. I like the idea of, okay, like my business life is not like super at all separate. It's one and the same of like my personal life. It's just an extension of it.
Mhm.
If I have these two separate things, it's almost, I couldn't do that.
I couldn't keep up with it either.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it when it is mixed is they're getting to know you personally,
Mhm.
and that encourages someone to want to invest and work with you. There's much more to us than just our business or just our family, just personally. And we're not
I like that.
self-promoting. Like I think for a lot of women that's a dirty word. I don't want to seem like I'm promoting myself or pushing my business down their throat. And I remind them of the algorithms that they may not even be seeing it anyways. And
What is it,
it's
like at
okay.
least 7 to 11 times? You have to
Mhm.
talk about a certain offer 7 to 11 times. That's a lot of times for that person to even hear what you're saying, let alone
Yes,
buy.
that's for sure. So we feel like we're repeating ourselves and we're pushing it down their throat, but actually not in reality. That's not what's
I
happening.
wanted I want to tell your audience here because I used to be okay, look, I did stay up at night a long time ago with all this kind of stuff until I realized that sales literally translates to being of service. So if you're confident in your offering and what you do and the transformation that you're giving your clients, then remind yourself that this you're being of service, and like that would be awful if you kept that to yourself.
I
That's
completely
how I
agree.
feel.
That keeps me going.
Uh-huh. Me
Just
too.
like check in, or what I'm saying from personal, what I tell myself is like check in. Where's my integrity? My
Hmm.
integrity is in alignment here, that I'm supporting them, and this is going to accelerate their success. Why wouldn't they want to know about it? This
Right.
is the benefit.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a
It's a win-win.
no-brainer.
That's so cool.
Exactly. And I want to move on to the next
Mhm.
question, Rebecca. In how do you feel like your morning routine benefits you? So I know we talked about that a little bit offline, and I would love to hear
Mhm.
more about it too.
I really feel it if I don't tap into that morning routine and night routine. So I'm pretty specific. It doesn't have to be like so micro, but I start off and I wake my baby up. It's a fun little routine. It's so sweet. He's
Mhm.
the greatest joy of my life. And we go on a walk. Obviously, I have coffee first. I like Four Sigmatic because they have it's like the medicinal mushrooms. It's not everyone's jam, but I really like it. I love nootropics, things that are gonna just rev the brain and supercharge it. So I have my Four Sigmatic and then we go on a walk. I connect with my breath and nature. And I've been really, I gotta be honest, loving Clubhouse. So I listened to Clubhouse yesterday. I was listening to Amy Porterfield and just things
Very
like
cool.
that. Yeah, just being inspired constantly by other entrepreneurs. Love your podcast and what you're doing. So it's exciting to be here now. And what else? I'm really into essential oils and just putting those on. Um, I don't know. What else I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, I
Do you
eat
ever
breakfast.
journal
I
or
do. I like journaling. And
yeah?
at the end of the day, I do my gratitude list of at
Mm.
least three things because that also causes us to look at what good came out of the day here instead of just always looking at what didn't go right. It's okay to critically examine that too, but we need to be attuned to what we already have in order to have more. Like, why would we attract more in our life if we're just looking at what's wrong?
I completely agree. I'm in the habit of like 3 to 5 things too at the end of the day,
Mm,
and if I don't write them down, sometimes I'll say them out loud to myself or say them in my head. I'm like, I'm so thankful that happened. And it could even
mhm.
be if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't know, it's just too hard. Because, but to say that it gets easier, it gets easier, and it starts to become a habit. And
Right.
it could even be something like, I woke up today, I got out of my bed today because you've been feeling maybe depressed or anxious, and that you got to work, or
Mhm.
you just got to wake up and to get up at a good
That's a
time.
really great point. A lot of clients initially, they kind of are deterred. They're like, there's nothing positive, or it's hard to find gratitude. So, especially about their body. So I tell them from a purely like utilitarian perspective, what does your body do for you? Like, what is an objective thing? Yeah, like you said, it got me out of bed. I'm alive. I'm breathing. Whoop, keep hitting this microphone. So that is huge. Just at least being neutral and finding that neutral space. And this is like an attitudinal muscle that you're beginning to build. Just like when you go to a gym and you're building your actual muscles, this is the attitude and the mindset of the entrepreneur that you begin to flex too through this things like the gratitude list. Hmm.
For sure. And when there's something that I tell my teammates when they're giving feedback to another teammate, like if I have a manager over a group, or like the sales manager over a group of people on the team, it's like, give and honor that person first.
Hmm.
If you search for something that they've done, and same in relationships, I feel like, or with parenting, it's like, first find something that you really love and then sandwich. Maybe you've heard
Yeah.
that, the sandwich method.
I love that so much that you're employing that method because I do like to tell my clients that as well. Like, people are going to be far more inclined to listen to you and listen to your authority and your messaging if you start with what do you appreciate and love and highlight those things about them, and then you can go into the more critical feedback.
It's something also interesting. I know I had said in a previous relationship is like, you can't be in negativity when you're in gratitude. You can't be
Mhm.
in both at the same time.
That's right.
So, like, exactly like what you said with the attitudinal, the
Yeah.
adjustment, that it starts getting you used to coming from that place, and it might
Mhm.
feel slightly uncomfortable because you want to say, there's almost like a defense mechanism that I've seen. I don't feel like I have that in myself. It's like, you when you say to them, I would really like you to say something that you're grateful for. They're like, I don't want to switch. I'm so used to this. I've worn this path. It's
Right.
like a really comfortable, worn down, like a comfortable pair of jeans. And no, I don't want to put on a different pair of jeans. I'm so used to this. I've worn this path down.
Mhm.
This is my path. And then they're only coming from that angle. And they're not, it's very short sighted. They're like zoning out and looking at the whole big picture. I'm sure you see that in your practice. It's like, only if you were able to see what I see, or see this,
I
or see that.
know, I
Oh,
know.
you would,
It's
your whole
because
body would just drop, and you would be like, you would walk with so much more lightness. And
amen to that. We're so identified and wrapped up in ego concerns and the identity of the ego. And that's what keeps us small and feeling like we're always in our fear. I like how Eckhart Tolle, he always talks about how we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness behind our thoughts. So again, with the awareness theme is just building the awareness around your thoughts. And instead of directly just latching on, okay, Is this evidence true? If not, like examining some of the cognitive distortions, like I mentioned earlier, and then learning how to reframe that it's really important if you want to have a career that has longevity and fun, that feels light. Like I love that you address that, feeling light in the body and the soul. Hmm.
It's so true. And when people ask, is this true? Do you also ask them, where might you have heard this before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I try not to get like so Freudian, but it's like, and tell me about your childhood. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The first 5 years, especially, they're so critical for, they shape us for who we are and our beliefs. And oftentimes we've arrested a caregiver's voice, the
Mm,
negative voice, in into our psyche, and it can be very challenging to overcome. But with that awareness and through not only like cognitive behavioral therapy and talk therapy, but embodiment and learning how to trust your own intuition and spiritual guidance is a part of this too. I like to ask my clients, what gives you faith?
mm.
What what would you talk like say to a friend? We are so hard on ourselves, but we're so kind to our friends. Why not talk to yourself the way in which you talk to your friend, your best friend, or your child? Things like that that are really
That's a
important.
great question. What if they're coming from a place of being hard on them too?
On the child,
Yeah, they're hard
well,
on
then you're an
themselves.
asshole. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think it's about, like in therapy, we talk about like ego dystonic versus syntonic, and do you see this as a problem? First, the client has to see it as a problem, the
Mhm,
way they're talking to their child or to
mm,
themselves. So I work with them on that level about building the awareness and seeing how this could be setting themselves up, setting their child up for long-term repercussions, be it like that perfectionism. And yeah, I mean, fundamentally, a lot of client or parents teach their children that their love is conditional, that they need to achieve and to be straight A students, or else they don't get that kind of love. And as a new mom, I do strive to show my son unconditional love no matter what. And it's a quite the journey, motherhood.
It is quite the journey. I have a teenager, and I completely agree. It's quite the journey. We just yesterday, I was telling her, I feel like you're capable to make A's if you want to. At the
Mhm.
same time, I'm always going to look at what's working for you or what's not working for you. And I'm always
Mhm.
going to seek to find what's the best fit for you. So I'm not defining you that, okay, well, if you're not doing XYZ, then you're like this, or you're just a loser.
Right, like
We're
just
here to,
labeling.
yeah, no labeling. We're here to be flexible. We're here to incorporate new strategies and
Mhm.
play with those and see how those work, because that's what it's about.
Yeah, and kids, they sure don't learn the same. Everyone has different aptitudes. I know that's the case for me.
Mhm.
I, in perfect like transparency here, I did struggle with like math when I was younger, and obviously you have to get through it. And like I did all the statistics and things like that in college, but it was not without struggle. And I just, I wish we could change the educational system. I guess we are with like the advent of like digital courses and things like that, but
Mhm.
for specifically children and things like that, it's tough. But today I outsource tasks like, bookkeeping and all that stuff. I do look at my numbers, but yeah, that was kind of rambly there, but
No,
I
I love it. In full transparency, I struggled a lot with writing and English, and
mhm.
I always found a math and science to be okay. That's the only class I want to go to. I don't even like the other ones. It's like
Yeah,
torturous.
gosh. I was always jealous of your type, like you're so analytical and it's just, yeah, I am the very creative. Like I love writing and all of that. So
Oh,
we have to find people like ourselves there
yes.
in our business and hire them. I love
Yes, that's what I relate to what you said. That is, we have a new book coming out called
Yes.
Redefine, and or if you listen to this, it's probably already to the public with on March 10th. We're doing the full book launch, and I had 3 editors, and probably the series 2, I'll have more. But I too went through every word of the book
Mhm.
myself and learned a lot about the editing process. And I started to enjoy it. At the same time, I realized that that's not my superpower.
Mhm.
And I have so much respect for the editors on the team that we hired, our new ones for the series 2, and the formatter, who a separate person who got all the formatting and files together with the margins and so many things that she did with
Wow.
that. I I have so much respect for that,
Mhm.
utilizing that side of the brain and
Mhm.
getting, and part of my superpower is getting those ladies together and having us share our story and promoting them on my platform and building the community in that way.
I love that about you. I love
Mhm.
everything that you represent in your business and the fact that you are putting women at the center here and boosting us up. And we should throw our hat in the ring in business. Like, why not? The time is now.
The time is now, for sure. And when we see another woman throwing their hat in the ring,
Mhm.
like to reach back or send the elevator down or get on.
Yes.
I was asked the other day on Clubhouse, I've been hosting a room every Monday, and that came up on one of my rooms. It's like, what is a successful woman? What does that look like? And one of my definitions was that she reaches her hand back. At the same time, in order to be that woman who can reach her hand back and bring people or pick up someone else's hat, you need to be comfortable also. I mean, I need to be comfortable also in admitting the areas where I need to reach forward and take someone else's hand. And like the
Hmm.
delegation that we were talking about before, and saying, you know what, I'm not the best at editing. Yeah, I can do 100 hours on this book,
Right.
or I can pay somebody who loves doing
Yes.
this, who's already done so many successful
Mhm.
books and knows what they're doing. How would that feel? And that feels good.
That does feel good, doesn't it? It's nice when we get to that phase in our business because
Mhm.
I can only speak for myself, but in the beginning, I was wearing every single hat, the bookkeeping hat that I was talking about earlier that now I delegate. And it is so magical to have someone else do those things so that we can focus on our zone of genius and continue creating and putting things out there in the world that not only lights us up, but our client, our communities.
Yes, and also realizing something that came up today, even though we had a handful of editors, there's still a few mistakes in the
Mhm.
book. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
Good for you, you
So I'm
know?
cool. I'm cool with
Mhm.
that. One of my friends who is extremely gifted in writing pointed that out to me today. Is we've offered a few people a sneak peek that they could grab
Mhm.
it early, and I said, you know, done is better than perfect. I'm sure it'll be even better the next time. And like
Mm.
you maybe should have seen it before those 3 editors. You wanted to see it.
This actually makes me realize how far you have come from when those therapists were telling you about all the type A stuff. Like, you're right. Done is better than perfect. That is a great mantra. I look back at some of the videos I did even like 2 years ago, and oh, the blasphemy, they're really bad. But in order to get to here, we have to walk through the discomfort and the kind of fumbling around. It's just how it is.
It's true, and not to call out anyone, but the same people who say things like that, or this same really good friend, she's been wanting to publish a book for a long time,
Mm.
and that, you know, that kind of thinking that might
Mhm.
actually, and I'm sure she will. I think that this
Right.
seeing me go through the process, she's feeling really inspired and that's all I can do. It's like, done is better than perfect, and kind of laugh it off, and I'm okay with that. That's I'm sure there are.
Right.
And also the accountability of having other authors in the book. It was like, this is go time. Like there's no more stalling here.
Right,
We've done
right.
everything we can to make it the best we can, and all these ladies are relying on me. They've all paid a fee to be in the book. Like there's a huge accountability in my leadership to get it done. And they're all supportive too. Like, yeah, let's go. It's go time.
It's go time. I agree. Like that, when you have other people who have skin in the game involved, then there's really no other way but to go forward with things. Good for you.
And that leads us into our next question, Rebecca, is so perfectionism can
Mm.
also be resistance, in my opinion. And like, speaking from experience, and I know I have been told numerous times in every personality test, like I was saying, I'm an ENTJ on the Myers-Briggs. Are you really into the Myers-Briggs?
I'm an INFP.
INFP. Oh, that's like
I'm
the opposite.
so introverted. Yeah.
Of
I
mine.
know.
That's every letter is the opposite.
That's so funny. Yeah, because you're like the analytical. That's so funny.
It's supposed to be my best match, or INTP, INFP. And that's beautiful. My daughter is an INTJ, so it's very kind of close to yours. So INFP, that's beautiful to share. I would love to hear more about that too. I know you guys are really in touch with your emotions and how you're feeling through the situation, and very aware of how other people are feeling around you, and probably the best thing to say. And that I definitely don't have that kind of filter a lot of times. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Please don't take that personally.
Right.
So
Yeah, you just say it like it is.
I've learned that not everyone likes that kind of communication style, so I need to kind of process a little bit more in my thinking, and analyze first, or write it down, or
And like on my end, my types, it's learning how to have a little bit thicker skin. I just posted something on my Instagram before. It was like, keep your heart soft, but your skin thick, if I can talk.
for real.
Right. So there's something to be said. There's an alchemy between the two types here, and there's always something to be learned in relationships.
There is. I need I think at some points in my life, to be honest, I've always had a very thick skin, and a lot of situations have helped me to have even thicker skin and not take things personally. But like you said, there's that balance that then harden your heart, and then people feel that, there has to be some level of vulnerability when you're also in coaching.
Oh yeah.
We can't be seen as we're just non-human. Like we're not super human.
You bring up such a good point here, because at least in graduate school, they teach you as a therapist to be a tabula rasa, or a blank slate. And I think, like, yes, you don't want your therapist like just projecting their own stuff on you during session, but I have personally found that it is a really good thing to show your personality, to have some opinion instead of just this, oh yeah, what do you think? Like, tell me more. Like, there's got to be, yeah, just the personality. And I would think that would be the case in any kind of business too.
I agree. Yeah, and what do you do when you feel some kind of, well, it could be even resistance when you're coaching someone. You're like, oh my gosh, this, um, I don't know what to, not that you don't know what to say to this person, but like how there may be some resistance, and is this really a person I want to work through this with?
Right.
And is that sometimes a resistance in yourself? I'm curious. Or
Really, really, really good question here. And I'd like to lean into that and really examine it, because if someone is truly that triggering, we call it transference, countertransference. it's best to talk to a colleague, talk it out, and see if like this person is even a right fit. And if they aren't, then you refer them out, because that would be the best for both parties. I think that's part of being an entrepreneur as well, knowing not only who you want to serve, but who you don't want to serve, and being very clear about those kind of boundaries and understandings.
I love that. But at the same time, we all need to make money. So
True.
there's like there's the balance, because I've heard some
Mhm.
of my clients that when I tell that to them, they're like, "Oh, well, but I know I can help everybody. I want to help everyone. I know I have something for them." So I tell them something along the lines of, you can have like a mini offer for them. You can have a smaller package for people that
Mhm.
you're not sure or the best fit to work with you, but at the same time you're wanting to lead your ideal client. They may get them any offer, and then they're leaning in to then investing more, so that's
Right.
also tricky too. It's probably better just to say, you know what, it's not a good fit.
I like that you kind of buffer it and like, well, you can do the mini offerings. It's not just like all or nothing, like nothing is. We talked about that earlier. There are shades of gray. But in business, we have to think about who who lights us up? Who are we best at serving? Really getting clear on that. And then through things like permission-based marketing, I love like people like Donald Miller, and who else? There's just so many entrepreneurs I really love. Amy Porterfield, yourself, where instead of like chasing all these different people, our messaging is specifically tailored towards that identified client. And then you're not even having to deal with taking all these different types of clients, and are attracting the exact kind of woman or man, whoever your person is, that again lights you up. I think that's really
Mhm.
important. But I understand the fear of wanting to get really specific. I think that's a very common thing in the beginning. But from my own experience, the clearer I got and more micro with my specialization, the better. Because you don't just like when I think of a therapist who specializes in everything, which basically means specializing in nothing, like I don't know who to refer them to, like my clients. Why would I refer to that? Instead, if someone specializes in sex therapy and trauma, then I'm knowing who to actually like send clients to.
Mhm.
So those are things to definitely consider as well.
That's so true. I love that. And I yeah, this is I can't even say it in a better way that I tell my clients to. Niching down means that you're going to find it's easier for them to find you, and then if they're not a good
Mhm.
fit, like you said, they can refer out. And I also give them examples about, so I'm really into Google Analytics and SEO, and on the back
Yeah.
end we can see with people are more likely to hop off, so they're going to spend less time. So it's like, do you want people to spend less time on your pages? Because
Hmm.
if they don't, they're not going to tell you. We're just going to
Right.
see it in the back end. We're going to
Hmm.
see that they're hopping off. So they're not going to say, hey, I couldn't really figure out what you did, so I left.
Oh my
You know what
gosh.
I mean?
Right. Like when you confuse, you lose.
Hmm.
It's just the truth. And just like with your website, making it so clear, how can this person work with you? If I'm gonna have to look around and find a button or figure things out, I'm gone. I'm out of there. What is that? The bounce rate? I'm not an
Yes, it's the
SEO.
bounce
Yeah.
rate. Yeah, it's like, oh no. And then we look at the page that has, and I can show them that too,
Uh-huh.
because I've had clients before, or also with their Facebook ads. So we have done for you services where we do those as
Yes.
well, or we guide them on how to do them themselves. Those kind of two different tracks. But
Mhm.
I remember I had a client and we were doing her Facebook ads, and she told me, I don't know if I'm for women or I'm for men. And I said, I'm pretty sure that you come, self-identifying women, I feel like would connect with you more.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know. I haven't ever made that distinction. That feels really vulnerable, really scary for me. I don't know. I don't think so. And then when we started running her Facebook ad, I said, let's just see if it's more women or it's more men that are going to tune into it and that go through it, resonate, make comments.
Hmm.
We're going to see. And then I showed her the analytics, and it was like
Oh
98%
my gosh.
women and also in a certain age range. And I'm like, okay, this is your target client. Are you with me? Are we like on the same page? She's like, okay, yes, okay.
I want to say, I want to take a pause and appreciate you because that's a perfect example of how you met her where she was at. Instead of saying, I know exactly who your like person is, you were like, well, let's just look at the numbers. And the numbers did show.
Yes, and
Mhm.
then she was able to feel more comfortable and confident, secure, and all right, because every piece of content, so like you were saying, going back to the main point, every piece of
Yeah.
content she was putting out was to everybody, everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And then she was wondering, why am I not having more clients, right? Why are more people not reaching out to me, wanting to work with me, or I'm not just connecting? And then when
Mhm.
she saw that in the back end and we were screen sharing, and she was able to say to herself and own it, this is my ideal client, this is who my avatar is,
Mhm.
these women that are of this age group, and a lot of other different interests that those women have, like they love Marie Forleo, for
Yeah.
example, or Amy Porterfield. They feel
Love
really
them.
connected, and that those are my people. And you know what, now I'm only going to talk to those people.
Mm.
And then she started like her Facebook ad started getting a lot more comments, traction, enrolling people in her programs. So it's beautiful that one. I feel like there could be a lot of resistance, like you said, and come
I
up with that.
I couldn't agree more. I see, and this isn't to diss anyone, but it's very common if you go on Instagram and like the bio, it's like, I help people step into their power. I have no idea what that means. Like, uh, who do you help CPAs to, or do you help coaches create more sales? Like, what does stepping into your power mean? And who are you talking to? So, those are the little things that we can begin looking at, like even just like looking at your Instagram or Facebook bio. Is it
Mhm.
really clear you're offering?
I think I might do a clubhouse room on that at some point, like website audits,
That's so
and
important.
it's fun. Well, I do it anyway. It's fun for
Yeah.
me, and I want to hear their feedback too. I'm always wanting to hear feedback. It was interesting. One of my parents said to me, they went to my website and there is a pop up that comes up for a
Mhm.
free course, and they said, that was really confusing to me. I'm like,
The
well, that's
pop-up?
a pop up. You can just close it, but I don't know. Was I supposed to do something with that? It was cute.
Oh, might be a generational thing too.
Yeah, they said we were not. My mom was like, "I'm not trying to upset you." It's like, no, tell me anytime if you don't see a link that works or anything. I'm
Right.
always open to your feedback.
You got that thick skin. I like it.
Because some of my other siblings, they can't say anything too. It's like there would be an uproar, and they wouldn't talk to them for a while, and so they felt that she felt she needed to paraphrase that. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm like, you don't even need to say that. Just tell
Mhm.
me anytime you see
Yeah.
something.
You're like, "Thank you."
Mm,
'Cause it's because you cherish growth and you've worked on your mindset and you continue to work on your mindset, and that's why it's okay. And it's okay to also do the progress, not perfection thing, like with your book you were talking about.
mhm.
So, we're just always working on ourselves, myself included.
I wanted to also jump to a question about like what some of those traits that we're talking about, which ones do
Mhm.
you feel like have really helped you throughout your entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, gosh, great question. I would say I realize that mindset is like 90% of it. So anytime some kind of negative automatic thought comes up, I just have this process where I notice it, notice the emotions that I'm holding in my body, notice the cognitive distortions, and then reframe them. So mindset is a big one. And then, like we talked about before, delegating tasks so that I can stay in my zone of genius, doing my market research with my identified clients, because I want to gather as much information as possible about my clients' needs and their preferences and their pain points. That's a big one for the entrepreneur who wants to be successful. What else? Building the product suite. That's what I've been focusing on now to take my business into the scalable realm, because as a therapist, we see all kinds of clients, like some eight clients a day, and that's not where I'm at. I'm a new mom here. I don't want to see 8 clients a day, and that's okay. So I'm focused on building these digital products and having this value ladder is what they call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where at each entry point that the client comes in, whatever course they take, then once they do that, they can graduate to the next, and they go down a very well thought out, comprehensive, almost like funnel of how to work with me. And it's fun. It's fun to create that. And I guess the other thing, this leads me to having fun. No systems, no automations are going to help you if you don't like what you do, if it doesn't light you up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a big one. And then just developing resilience and for me, it was about turning my wounds into wisdom. I cannot even begin to tell you how grateful and exciting it is to see that, from sitting in in the hospital at 11 years old, not knowing if I was going to live, to now and helping women to feel good in their mind and body, to actually feel good and to thrive. This is one of the greatest gifts, next to my son and obviously my husband, that I couldn't have even thought of this. It's just divine. It really is. And it's exciting. So I was rambly too, but that's really what I would say has kept me going and keeps me successful, because you have to also have a product and service that's of high quality and actually getting results too.
That's for sure. And that meets those pain points, like you said, and is very
Hmm.
clear on where you're taking them, like what their I like to say what their desired outcome is.
Hmm.
You're gonna give
Yes,
that to them based on your ideal client.
exactly. And you start with the end in mind when you're considering your offers. Like, what kind of transformation are they seeking? How do they want to feel?
Mhm.
Not of what you think, like this. You really, I cannot reiterate this enough. It's the market research. Get on the phone, talk to these people, do as much of that as possible.
I completely agree. That's like the second step in my client's journey, a lot of them, and
Mhm.
I describe it like eating your broccoli because they
Ah,
don't wanna do it.
right, I know, but if you skip that step,
Yes. You can't
yeah,
just eat
just
cake,
don't do
I
it.
tell them.
Yeah.
It's not like you
Uh-uh.
can eat cake all day. I mean,
I
it's
know.
you like it, I like it, but
Right.
that's like eating your vegetables.
You won't feel good if it's just cake. So I get that very much. I want to hear your thoughts, but like in hosting these clubhouse rooms, is that almost like market research for you as well?
For sure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's it was interesting last night's room. One of the ladies, I'm starting to understand that there's key words that I look for or ways that a woman might describe themselves that lead me
Mm-hmm.
to believe that that's my ideal client. There's certain phrases
Right.
that they identify with, such as I have all the balls in the air and I just feel like I can't keep juggling all these balls, or I do all the things and I know that I have to stop doing all the things.
That is such a good point too. It's like how they actually talk about it.
Hmm.
Even though you might be talking about the same thing, to, to connect with the copy, it has to be from their actual, like their words, from their mouth. That makes a lot of sense to me.
It does. And something I like to think about too, or I tell clients, is you need to be even one step or two steps ahead in your
Hmm.
mindset to be able to turn around and support them So like when you're writing the copy, like you're saying,
Right.
I may not be thinking, I'm okay with not doing all the things.
I know.
But that's exactly what my ideal client's going to say to me, or what they're feeling right now in this moment.
Mhm.
They know I could do all the things. I've been doing all the things really successfully for a long time. And then when there's also someone else in the audience yesterday said something to this particular lady, and that I felt like was embodying who my ideal client is. And she said, it seems like there might be like a lack of mindset, because you're not like going into abundance here. If you're afraid to kind of hand off things, you might be preventing all the
Mhm.
abundance that's on the other side of that. And that lady was not ready to hear it yet. She said, I got no, I know I'm good at doing all the things. I got everything figured out right now. And
Mm.
so maybe, being aware of who we're talking to, because I was understanding that she needs to be given immediate resources. Okay, this thing over here, you can hand off to this person or my company. This thing over here, and then that will save you like 20 hours right there to then focus on what you want to do. That's
Mm.
a mindset shift, not telling her that she can't do it. No, I know
Right.
you can do it. I know you got to figure it out. And you know what? That's going to benefit you that you have some of that figured out, because then when you bring someone onto your team, you can say, this is clearly what I want to have done. And I
Mm.
know that I can have these results because I already had them myself. So it's not
Yes.
like you've wasted your time. There's a benefit in trying to figure out all the things, but there's a certain point when you're bumping up against burnout. You're about to hit the
Mhm.
glass ceiling that's your own making, because you can
Right.
only do so much. And if you don't do something now, and one question that one of my mentors asked me one time is like, if you keep doing all the things that you're doing right now and you get 5 new clients this week, what's going to happen?
Mm.
I'm going to crash and burn if I don't change.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my transparent answer. That was the truth, and
Mhm.
that was almost a year ago. It's like, I need this. Okay, so you're gonna crash and burn. Who do you need to bring on your team that's gonna prevent you from crashing and burning? What things can you hand
Yeah.
off? And
Oh
we
my
got to get real
gosh.
with ourselves.
You're really speaking my language here, because anytime I knew that you're a consummate professional and a true businesswoman when we first got on the phone, because you were like, me and my team, like anyone who has a team and knows the beauty behind delegating. I mean, that's really what's going to help you move the needle and to take it from a good business to a great business to a truly thriving business. Good
Like,
for you.
thank you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And those SOPs, wow, I have a lot of templates for them if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
once you start making them, you realize why people don't delegate sooner, because
Mhm.
trying to, like, the brain dump of trying to take everything that you've been doing in your head and put that into something that someone can understand what the heck you're
Right.
saying. And so being okay with my most recent hire that I brought onto the team, she had about 30 questions based on my SOPs, and I welcome those, because then that
Mhm.
helps me to make things more clear for the next person. So
Right.
I see it as a living document. It can be altered, it be flexible. Like, let the
Mhm.
people also on your team be open to hearing that feedback. Oh, this can Oh, I probably could have communicated that a little bit more clear. You're the first person I've made this for. So
Right,
we'll
right.
get better as things go along.
Even though like we systematize and automate, which is so crucial and important, there still is a humanistic side of things. Like I know that we could automate DMs and Instagram, but doesn't mean we should. Like we still
Yes,
are in the DMs and talking to our ideal clients and to our team members. So there, yeah, you bring up a good point with that.
that's very true. I have done that before. I have
Mhm,
automated them,
mhm.
and I definitely see that it's better when there's a human approach. Definitely works better.
And I want to backtrack a little. Like, I'm not saying it's all bad, but there needs to be and like the humanistic side, right?
For sure. If you want to make sales, authentic sales, and really feel good about
Hmm.
it and understand if that person's a good fit for you, there needs to be a human hand and a human approach in it at some point in the game.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh,
And before I was loving this conversation, Rebecca. Before we head
it's
off,
fun.
and yeah, it's super fun. As we're wrapping up, I would love for you to give the audience like 2 to 3, if it's one or
Hmm.
2 or 3, like really solid strategies that you utilize in your business that you feel like you wish you had known,
Hmm.
and or that you do on a daily basis.
Yes. The first one is just definitely know your why. Why are you doing this? Because the how and all the things, the roadmap to get there, you'll get there. But if you don't have the why, then it's a much harder to get there because you just won't have that why to get you through those harder times. So that's number one. Number two, please do yourself a favor and think about specializing and niching down, niche, whichever way you pronounce it. The niches are in the riches. It's just going to hone your craft and make you that much more of a professional. And do not, and I repeat, do not be afraid of investing in yourself. I think back to the times when I was making those uncomfortable investments, but had I not done that, hired the business coach, hired the therapist, whatever, I wouldn't be here today speaking with you and making the kind of difference and money that I do today. So think of it as something that you will, it's like a long term investment and it's only going to make you better. Follow people who are already living the way in which you want to live, who are already building these beautiful businesses, who have the strategy, who have the mindset, and who can coach you on how to get there. Those would be my tips.
Wow, I love it. I completely agree with all of those for sure. I mean, and looking back on my business, I wish I had mentors sooner. I
Hmm.
This is my third tech and not digital marketing, but this is my third tech company, and I I think I was more on the side. Like in the first few months, I was seeking mentorship with Empire Life, but in my
Yeah.
previous two companies, that was something that I wasn't so good at.
Hmm. Yeah. And it shows. Look at you. Look at you today. I love what you're doing. And
Oh,
it's
thank
really
you.
exciting to connect and cannot wait to read your book.
Oh, yay! I can't wait for you too to read.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Aren't you're hosting something on Clubhouse like in on the 10th, I think I saw?
Yeah, March 10th, and then we have also a virtual summit on March 20th.
Perfect. Count me in.
Yay! And how can people find you? What is your
Yeah.
Instagram handle, or where?
So, yeah, I do hang out on Instagram the most, I'd say. Rebecca Caps Counseling is my Instagram handle. I also have a Facebook group, the Mind Body Thrive Tribe. So if you want to join in on that, it's a nice safe space for women who crave food and body freedom, body image. And then if you have any questions, feel free to message me at rebecca@mindbodythrive.com.
Okay, perfect. And that'll definitely be in the show notes too.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate it.
Rebecca, for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.